Today we are going to be working on our pelvic tilts. So first I'm going to demo what it looks like, and then after I'm going to go into more detail describing what is actually happening in the body, different cues that you can use to help connect, and different variations as well. So we're going to start laying down on our backs. So hand placement can be either pressing into the mat, or you can place your hands on your hips if you like that feedback. Knees are bent and feet are flat on the ground. First, you're going to round your spine a little bit and tip your pelvis up. And then you're going to arch the other way. Curl the tailbone under and round. And then tip your hips the opposite direction. Curl and arch. One more time, curl and arch. Rest. Let's go over in detail about what we just saw. I'm going to use this bowl as a reference because similarly our pelvis is shaped like a bowl. At the bottom we have all of our pelvic floor muscles, and this is super important to building that foundation for all core work moving forward. So if I'm standing up, our pelvic tilts look something like this. If I arch my back and tilt my hips forward, that's my anterior tilt. If I go backwards and kind of round this shape a little bit, that's my posterior tilt. So with the bowl, we're tipping that bowl forward, and then we're tipping our bowl backwards. So that's a really good visual to show what we're trying to do here. Now, if I lay down and I place that bowl on top of my hips, it's kind of a similar thing. I'm tipping my bowl forward, and then I'm tipping my bowl back. So if that visual helps, then you can pretend that you have a bowl, or you can actually place a bowl on your hips. If you want to progress this, we can then go into some circles. So you're curling the tailbone towards you in your posterior tilt to start. Then you're going to circle your hips over to the left into your arch or your anterior tilt, and then circle to the right and come back to center. So doing a few circles in this direction, and then you're going to want to try to reverse, and you might notice that one side is more challenging to get than the other. The things that we're looking for in this is that we can keep our knees and legs relatively still. So if you're moving your knees a lot when you're doing this motion, you're not quite getting the purpose of this exercise, which is to isolate the pelvis. So that's one thing to look out for. The other thing to look out for is your rib flare. So if you're arching up like this, especially when you go into that arch, then you're gonna lose a lot of abdominal connection up here as well. So try to sink your ribs gently down into the mat and feel those upper abs and obliques draw the ribs towards each other in the center. And then trying to maintain that as you do whatever motion you're trying to do in the hips. So additionally, we can also bring some focus and awareness to our hamstrings. Imagine that I have my hands on the back of your heels, and without actually moving your feet, I want you to try to pull those heels back into my hands. So nothing really has to move too much. You might notice a little bit of a shift, but really what we're trying to feel is those hamstrings activate. So you can pull those heels back, activate the hamstrings, and then keep that activation as you tilt into your posterior tilt. And this is actually really challenging. If you're doing this right, you should really feel the backs of the legs working. No need to come all the way up here just yet, because they are on fire. And then you can, again, maintain that hamstring connection as you move throughout. So last thing, I want to show you a couple variations to give you some more options. I personally like to use a rather deflated exercise ball, but if you don't have that, you can also use a pillow or a rolled up towel or fold up a blanket, just something to elevate your hips and something that's soft and has some give to it, and that can allow for some more range of motion. And then when you remove that, it opens up that low back and it feels really nice.
So I'm laying down again. I'm gonna lift my hips and place the ball like way towards the bottom, kind of where my tailbone is. If it's too high, you're gonna fall into the arch, which actually feels really nice, but that's not for this exercise. So you wanna go a little bit lower to give yourself some space down here. And that way you'll have room to then posterior tilt. And again, it gives you more range to stretch that low back and then going the other way. So rocking back and forth, and you can kind of see how there's even more movement in my low back now. And you could still do those circles as well. So again, try these out. You have some options. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and happy moving.